Hello everyone. In this video, I want to show you the quickest way to have a stable diffusion or flux and many other models running on your laptop, on your machine, on your own hardware. That is generating the images locally, the same way that you would use DALI or any of the web services that are available. So how can we do this? We need to install ComfyUI or use ComfyUI. ComfyUI is a collaborative effort from the open source community where we created and has been created a web application that has a simple interface to create a pipeline, a workflow of the sequential steps necessary to create these images. I'm not going to go into technical details. That's for another video in a completely different scope. But just know that the best and easiest at the time of this video approach to have it running locally is to go into ComfyUI, GitHub. If I take a step back just for simplification, and if you want to follow along, you can simply use your favorite search engine and type ComfyUI. You should reach the first link will be to the GitHub ComfyUI. And the second link that I see here, comfy.org, I know that this is the official website for ComfyUI. So if you go to the official website, you press Get Started, you can see a few examples, you see some documentation that we can see later, install from GitHub. So definitely install from GitHub is the recommended approach that people are using today. In the documentation, we can deep dive in the future. There's quite a few things to learn, but this is a very short and concise um, show how to install and have it running quite quickly. So if we go below to the documentation within the GitHub repo, we see installing ComfyUI. We have a single link to download the file. So if we press in direct link to download, we can see that the file is the 7Z, like 7-zip compressed file. It's downloading right now. After downloading, we will open it. We will see a little bit about the directory structure that it has, but in reality, we don't need to know much about it. It's just download and unzip and compress in any directory that you want it to work on. Know that the directory may grow quite a bit over time because you will be downloading a few models and the models are quite large and there may be quite a few that you will want to try. So here you have the top level directory, you have run CPU, run NVIDIA GPU. These are batch files, so they just have a few commands. And ComfyUI top level directory, this is where all the source code, all the actual implementation of ComfyUI, the web application, the web service is actually running. And you can see it's completely open source, so you can actually see the code and everything that is going on. If you want to go to that level of detail, probably in other videos we could jump into that. Python embedded is a directory that contains all the Python environment and the Python runtime, the interpreter of Python, if you're familiar with it. So it's completely self-contained, so you don't need really Python installed on your machine or worry about any of that. ComfyUI will handle the dependencies, the libraries, and everything else that they have. And update has a few um, shortcuts for updating both the Python environment and ComfyUI modules as well, all the dependencies. So if we unzip this anywhere that you have enough space with, in any drive, in any location, and then we go to run it. So here we are on the directory where I downloaded ComfyUI. I unzipped it, extracted it. I know my computer, my PC has a GTX 2080 Ti, so I know I will be using Run NVIDIA GPU. I have also tried the Run CPU, and it works on a laptop that you could argue it doesn't have discrete GPU. It has an Intel Arc mobile chip, which it does work, but that's for another video. So you can actually use the VRAM and the discrete GPU on Intel Arc as well, but that is a complete different installation and dependencies and libraries for the Python and PyTorch dependencies. So all we need to do is really run NVIDIA batch file. I will also mention I did install quite a few models and quite a few custom nodes for ComfyUI. So my output right now of the console of this execution will be much more verbose, probably much more detailed than what you may have if you just unzipped it and you're running ComfyUI. So keep that in mind. But it does not affect anything that we are looking at right now. We can see that after you run the batch file, straight away you can go to the interface on a given URL. Of course, this means that it's just running locally a web application on a given port. So if I go straight to Chrome, we can see that I have it running right now. It should have opened automatically. I'm just refreshing the page just so you actually see it, let's say, loading real time. And this is everything that it is. It's running right now, ComfyUI. And I just want to share a few things before we go any deeper and just run our first output. We generate our first image. Is that these are the resources I wish I had known the first time I used ComfyUI and when I started working on this. Is that, of course, ComfyUI-wiki.com. This is a great resource where you can see obviously how to run ComfyUI. There is a desktop installation, how it runs on Windows, Linux, Mac, right? And a few things that you may have to do on each specific thing. Here is what I mentioned. There is an attempt to create an installer and simplify a few other things. So if you want to look into this, definitely it's another possibility. Then relevant for running ComfyUI and make sure that everything is operational is that Civit AI is one of the best resources where you can download models. You can see these images. When you see images, you can see the resources that were used. That means the checkpoints, like the model that was used to generate such an image. LoRa is like a customization model. So it tells the model how it can tweak or customize or create more details into the already generated model. So basically a checkpoint and the model will generate an image. The LoRa can tweak it, customize it, add a little bit more uh, flavor or style, right? That's as far as I go as it goes. And then in prompt, you can see the prompt that was used to generate such an image, or in this case, obviously a quick video of a few seconds. Comfy workflows. So this is another very good website that provides you with a lot of example workflows. Workflows is the essence of ComfyUI. ComfyUI works with workflows. What ComfyUI aims to do is to simplify the process of generating images. This process is sequential, so it's a step by step, different things that would occur to get from a prompt and loading a model all the way to generating the target image that you want in the size that you want with the characteristics that you want. And then finally, this OpenArt.ai. also allows you to see a lot of examples and a lot of workflows. You can download the workflows and the images.png that will be generated by you from ComfyUI have in themselves the workflow that generated them stored. That means that just by having the images, the original images PNG that were created by using ComfyUI, you can reproduce those images. That's like version control of the images. So I think that's one of the great features that ComfyUI provides. So remember OpenR.ai to download workflows. You like images for different things, upscaling different models that you'll see, video. So after it loads, as you see here, all we have it running. I can search all the models that I have downloaded. You can see that I've been experimenting quite a while. By default, you will need this V15 pruned IMA only. So this model, you can see that it has this default module workflow. So this is a default workflow example that comes already with ComfyUI. You should have it completely operational and working. So if I just do Q, you'll see that step by step with this green bar around each of the nodes, the process will run one by one to generate an image. Everything I did that you may see different is that this save image node within this workflow has been read. That is because I removed, instead of save an image here, I'm linking obviously the code to save an image, I moved it to a preview. I just didn't want every time I press Q to generate a new image to be saved in the file system. That's just because I'm just showing a few things, right? And if we press Q again, you can see it will generate another image much faster. Much faster because the load checkpoint that actually loads the model is already in memory, whether it is in RAM or VRAM, depending on your configuration and your characteristics of your hardware. And the other reason that the images are different is because we have control after generate value as randomized. Randomized means that the seed, which is the random number generator initial seed, used to create the image is changing every time it runs. And that allows it to, for the image, even though the prompt is exactly the same, to change completely. So what does this mean? Well, you can generate images as many as you want, but to actually reproduce the same image every time, the information you will need is absolutely everything that you see on K-sampler node. So you need the seed, you need the quantity of steps, you can see here the classifier-free guidance, which scales, balances creativity and adherence to the prompt, right? The sampler name and the scheduler. Of course, the denoising as well affects how it's generated. So all these variables, all these parameters actually affect how the image generation is done and performed. So if you ever want to generate an image, and you'll see it if you download any of the PNG images I mentioned before, you drag and drop it on right here on the website, on the UI of ComfyUI, it will automatically load the model that was used, the workflow that was used to generate such image. So this concludes, I guess, the initial intro. So you should have it running. It should be working. You can start exploring. If you go, of course, to Civit AI, probably you will need any model. I recommend you go to models. I recommend you go and see which one you like. Just clicking on any. You can see checkpoint trained. So what you need is checkpoints to load checkpoints, as you see here, right? Everything here is absolutely what you need. And you can see the base model that was used for this checkpoint that you are downloading, in this case, Stable Diffusion Excel Extra Large 1.0. So Stable Diffusion model. This is a checkpoint trained. you can see that is 6.5 gigs. You can see floating point 16, that means that it's using 16 bits. And download, you can just download and place it in the directory that we saw where checkpoints is under the models subdirectory in the ComfyUI directory that we unzipped and compressed everything that we downloaded. With that, you should be generating images. You can also uh, look and we'll see. So you should be able to generate images straight away. With that, you have, of course, a simple workflow example. You can open, save workflows. You have a few of the different documentation websites that I recommend. You can download and play with workflows. And we may make another video for going into more details on how and why everything is linked together and how you can generate your own workflows for your specific use cases, for your specific needs. Hopefully this was helpful, and see you on the next video.